I apologize for that, guys. Sorry about that.
Sorry, I'm pretty sure that's a Skittles thing.
So it's your boy Jacoby last week. And this week it is Taste the Rainbow
No,
while
no,
you
no, no,
drink
no.
a
No.
LaCroix.
No, that's not what I said. I said, taste the rainbow.
Right, but yeah, okay.
No, if you like, say it, but say it how I said it.
I'm okay. What's up, guys? This is episode. Great start to episode 3. It's Andrew again, and I'm still stuck with my genius partner Levi.
Back
who
again,
thinks
baby.
That Skittles make LaCroix.
I don't think that. It just felt right.
All right, yeah, vibe with it. Yeah.
Somebody had to say something. All right, go on.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah, in this episode, we're just going to talk about influences in kind of all areas of your life, whether it's, from a media standpoint or a digital standpoint to friends, relationships, etc. Before we kick it off, apologize for the dark camera. We're in a new setup. Today, I'm house sitting for a client and friend, and I thought that the lights were a little bit brighter. It will be different for the next ones, but for this one, Levi wanted it more intimate and a little bit darker, so we just went with this, and we're going to stick with it. So if you're watching the video, sorry for the lighting. It will be fixed next time. How was your weekend?
Weekend was good. Trying to recall. My wife's parents were in town, so and it was also like negative 1,000 degrees, so didn't really do anything outdoors.
Oh, wait. Before we move forward,
yeah.
People have told me based on our first 2 episodes that we should clarify things a little bit more. So for those of you that don't know, me and Levi, we both live in Denver, Colorado, and it was like negative 20 degrees this past weekend. So there you go. We're clarifying as we move forward.
Yeah, really cold weekend. The coldest weekend we've had.
That's probably the coldest weekend since I've moved here.
Yeah.
Negative 20?
Did it get to negative 20 here in Denver?
At night, yeah.
Sheesh. Yeah, it's pretty cold. It's the kind of cold where you step outside and when you breathe, you feel your nose hairs like cinch up.
Or they like kind of freeze a little bit.
Yeah.
It's the cold where I let my dog out and she walks back inside and then poops in the house 30 minutes later.
Oh, Daisy.
Yeah.
You didn't introduce, we got a special guest in the house, Daisy.
Yeah, maybe I'll have Levi. She's over by Levi right now. I'll have Levi pick her up and
she sleep
and put her on the cam.
She sleep.
She's a little bean. But
yeah, this pod's boring. She already went to bed.
Daisy's in the house today. If you know, you know. All right, man. Well, let's kick it off. We kind of wanted to talk about influences today, kind of from a good and bad standpoint, I would say, about how they affect your life. So there's tons of talk around, how you should use social media, what that looks like, as well as what your friend group should look like. Should they be big? Should it be a small friend group? What are the benefits? What are the negative sides to that? So I think we're going to kick it off today with more of a digital standpoint or a media, and then move in to more of a, what would you call that? A person or in-person viewpoint of the influences in your life. So let's kick it off with like social media first, because I feel like that's a pretty hefty topic that it gets talked about a lot. From a positive and negative, and I always think about how you use it. I know we have talked about this in the past about how you use it or how you like set it up. So why don't you kick it off, Levi, about like your experience with social media? Has it been positive? Has it been negative? Has it developed over time? Or like, does it depend how you're trying to use it?
I think all the above, right? Like, social media is pretty, I don't want to say toxic, but it can be toxic. I think it probably takes some time because social media was got big, when we were in middle school, something like that.
Yeah, I think I missed the first wave though, because I didn't have a phone for a while. Like, I had parents that didn't let me get a phone for a while, so I think I missed like the first kind of half of it. So I was late to the game. I think that was middle school though.
Yeah,
like late middle school.
I think I got on social media in middle school, MySpace.
Oh yeah, see, I missed MySpace altogether.
Oh, dude, that was the best. That was the best era of social media.
I had AIM. Do you know what that is?
Yeah, I think we just called it AIM, but yeah,
I always called it AIM. Maybe I
that's
don't
just
know if I'm
instant.
an
That's just
idiot, but
instant messaging, right?
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Because I didn't have a phone, so that was how I communicated to the shouties.
yeah. There'd be a little thing, little green dot that shows you're online. You got your little screen name.
Mm-hmm.
And you
Mm-hmm.
talk to like your 3 friends or whatever.
Yeah. I know for you it was probably like you played what was that? Like Club Penguin and there was one Neopet. You're big. I can see that. You were a MySpace and Neopets kind of guy.
I don't know what Neopet is.
I would say the same thing if I was embarrassed about it.
I literally don't know what Neopet is. No, but my MySpace back in the day, dude, I had I don't know who would sing, party like a rock star. That was like the song on my profile.
Hell yeah, dude.
And then you had bulletins on there. You had your top whatever you want. But yeah, and I think I had a phone. I think I got a phone when I was in 6th grade, but it was a little track phone, pay as you go.
Yeah.
You can only play Snake. That was like the only game on it. But yeah, no, back to like social media. I think it can be good and bad, right? But I think where I was going with that is like it took time for like maturity and like just growing to understand, how it can be negative for you and how it can be positive for you.
I also think that gives you enough time to grow your habits as well. And
Yeah.
it's really hard to break out of those habits.
Yeah. So I'm on social media. I think really the only one I spend time on is Instagram. But yeah, I mean, I like it. Like I'm pretty selective on the people I follow and what is kind of coming into my head when I open it up. And obviously a lot of us have that like problem as far as like you're just scrolling for no reason kind of thing. And it's like it's like not it's not good for you mentally. Like it's not doing anything for you. It's not productive. But there's a lot of like influence that I think I get in my daily life from some people that I follow on Instagram. I'm sure you do too.
Yeah, so I think let's break that down a little bit more because I know I had discussed this with you, and when you're talking about like you're blanketing social media in general, I think it all comes down to how you decide to use it, right?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I think to break it down even further, it kind of has to be set up the right way
For sure.
because you can't. Can I talk about how I told you I break it down?
Yeah.
Like so for those of you that don't know, because I need to start clarifying things a little bit more, which is my fault, but I have a few social media accounts. So I have um, the Bad Company account, which was something that I started before me and Levi started the podcast. So the podcast is kind of an addition to that and an outlet for us to talk. I have my personal one, which is the one I've always had grown up with. And then I have my gym one. And I do have like a graphic design one. I don't use it as much, maybe in the future. But so technically, I have like 3 accounts that I use a lot. And the more that I was on social media, or the more that I kind of started to enter the business world, I would say I started to realize where, time was going that I shouldn't be spending and then where my time needed to be focused. And then I kind of found out that the more that I was on social media, like specifically my personal page where I follow other people that I grew up with or that I'm friends with, etc., family, whatever, that to me felt way more of a time dump that was kind of a waste of my time. And I think, you could break it down a lot, but for the most part, people just, it goes into that circle of people post the best parts of their life.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So not only are you kind of seeing, someone's Saturday night, which you could or could not care less about, but you're also seeing like the amazing parts of someone's life, which could make you feel negative about yours. And then the parts that I really draw positive influence from were my more business or like passion focused accounts.
Mm-hmm.
So you have the Bad Company one, and on the Bad Company one, I follow a lot of creative people. So I follow people in the fields of media, videography, and photography, as well as a little bit of graphic design and apparel. because those I have interest there, and those are like not career paths, but kind of paths that I want to follow, or like things that I think I would be interested in business wise. And then on the gym side, I follow a lot of people who are educated in the health and fitness industry, right? So for both of those accounts, I probably follow like 50 people on each of those accounts. Now, my personal one, I mean, you probably the same way. I follow like 800 people, right? And all of those people kind of are posting about the same things about their life, having
Yeah.
a kid. And it's cool when you see the occasional having a kid, family update, etc. But on these particular accounts that are business focused or passion focused, I gain a lot of positive influence from those because I'm learning a lot, but it makes me excited about the things that I'm trying to work on. So for this podcast in general, I know there's like 3 people in particular on each of those accounts that I follow that I like their podcast a lot. So I've learned a lot about the things that they do in their podcast or the way that they speak, whether it's from me to you, asking questions, allowing you to speak before I speak, etc. So those accounts allow me to learn a lot more and develop. So from that viewpoint, I think social media can be a fantastic thing, and it's a tool that you can use for education and then to also like for some creative inspiration. But if you just use social media from that standpoint of I need to know exactly what's going on in everyone else's life, and then it gives you that feeling of like, well, maybe I need to actually post the little pieces of my life too. It can be a time dump personally. It can make you feel bad about your current situation. And then it can also, I think, outside of you feeling bad about your current situation, it makes me feel like I'm behind all the time
Mm.
in different areas of my life. So, this person over here could have no kids, but would be doing really well with their job, right? And
Mhm.
this person over here could have a good job and already start a family, and they're my age, right? So
Mhm.
there's pieces of that make me feel like, oh, well, like you're married, right? And I see that you and T could be together, and I'm like, man, I'm behind. I don't
Mm.
have a family. I don't have my ideal job yet. So, um, I don't know. That's been a big thing for me, is trying to pull myself away from that and out of that, and not really think about what everyone is doing all the time, and instead try and focus on the things that I can learn and draw from. So I know that was really long, but I think that we had discussed about like how I break down social media and how I've been using it compared to how I used to use it. And I definitely used to use it like the MySpace way.
Yeah.
I wanted to be in the in and be in the know, and
In the mix.
yeah, and know everything that was going on, and post about everything that was going on. I think I've got 12 photos, right?
Well, yeah,
But like,
that's cool. I admire the way that you separate um different things on different accounts. I feel like that's a good way to organize it so that you're getting the positive effects of social media. What are what are some of your favorite accounts to follow, if you have any, or like any that like have like a impact on you, or maybe someone's page you go to?
so I think on that point is I've got there's particular people I like in the podcast realm. I really like Chris Willix. Um, but outside of like those particular people that I really enjoy looking at their feed on a regular basis, because I get something, like actually get something from it. If you set up, what I've noticed is if you set up your page in that way, in a way that can help you, right? And you've only set it up that way, then if you somehow get into a rabbit hole on that page, that that rabbit hole is a lot more beneficial than the rabbit hole on your other account.
Yeah.
Like on the other account, like the family or my like friends and family account, I'm gonna end up on a rabbit hole watching these 2 dudes in the Amazon build an entire mansion out of clay at like 3 a.m. That kind of stuff, right? Like, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like everyone knows. It's like it'll be like these
Yeah.
2 guys with the little sticks, and they build like this mansion out of clay. And that's a similar example, but it doesn't get me anywhere. You're just like, wow, next video. Wow,
Yeah.
next video.
Yeah.
But on these other accounts, because I only follow these X amount of people, it shows me like that content constantly. So I follow probably like 20 people who have like a doctorate in nutrition or exercise science, and they'll do like walkthroughs of how certain movements should be done compared to how they're normally done.
Yeah,
Now, if I get down in a rabbit hole on that page, it loads me up with stuff like that.
for sure.
So I know if at least if I get stuck on that page, I'm gonna get stuck watching something that might benefit me. But I would say accounts in general, I don't really want to like, not that I don't want to speak on that, but that's more of an opinionated thing, like on how you set up your accounts. Like if you like running, try and set up your account, like find a couple of people you like, and then you'll end up scrolling through and finding other people you like that can support like that running path that you're really interested in, etc. Um, but yeah, I don't know if that answers your question, but I think if you set it up the right way, it will feed you things that you know could actually help you grow.
Yeah. Yeah. That's the good part of social media, right?
Yeah, it's really hard to get out of the, I would say, like the negative cycle of using social media, and there's not a right and wrong way, right? It's just if you look at it from a certain lens, there's a right and wrong way.
Yeah.
It's not actual right and wrong way, but I've been trying to get out of like the normal social media loop.
Yeah. And like like when you talk about how, and like a lot of people, they talk about how people, Instagram is like the highlight reel of people's lives. I don't think it's a bad thing. Like I don't like I like the good, like seeing the good parts of people's lives, you know? I think what it comes down to is like who you have on there. Right? Because if you have your friends that like, you know, especially me and you, we're not from Denver. You know, you're from Memphis, I'm from Southern California. So like it's cool to still be connected in that way, and also find other connections, you know, when
What, do you feel like maybe a better way to say it is, once you're on kind of that continuous scrolling effect and you're seeing this is great, this is great, this is great, this is great, right?
yeah.
It becomes more of a mental battle. Like you have to understand that that's the situation, and instead of thinking it as my life sucks, you should just see it more from like what you're talking about, that you're keeping up with someone, and it's less from like a controversial standpoint with yourself. Like
Yeah.
you're just accepting that that's someone's trip. Because I agree, but it's really hard to not think that way of yourself. And I know it happens to my friends, like people I'm close with. It seems like someone's on vacation all the time, when in reality it's like
Oh yeah.
they're on vacation twice,
Right.
like twice a year, but you just see that vacation post.
Right. Yeah. It's definitely a slippery slope with like envy, I would say, right?
Yeah.
I hate like that I check it for no reason.
That's me with not necessarily, I don't think I've really ever had that problem with Instagram, and I might be, the black sheep in that sense, but I've had that problem with TikTok. I don't have my TikTok set up the right way, and I find myself doing that if I'm really stressed, because it'll make me
Yeah.
like forget what's going on like
Yeah.
outside
Yeah.
of that immediately.
Yeah. It's
Um, but yeah, I definitely agree with that.
when
It's a
I'm on
hard habit to
TikTok,
break.
I get in these like loopholes, I guess, of just like all these like police like interaction like videos.
It's because it knows you. It
I
knows
know.
you'll watch them.
I love it, dude. I love seeing stuff from like the body cams and all that, and
Mm-hmm.
just
I
traffic stops and all that. I don't know.
I do have like I guess from an influence standpoint, because I know that's what we're talking about. Um, I know men and women are different, but my roommate Andy's really good about most of the stuff that he views on social media, or like, come home, watch YouTube while he's eating dinner. It's never like ever. It's never just like a mind dump. In a sense, it's always productive. Like I feel like he's always learning something,
Mm.
even if it's about football, soccer. It'll be
Football.
like a podcast about, standings or the way the team is set up. So he's really good. Like that's one thing I'm, props to him, because it's really hard for me to do, but he is good at not wasting his time when it comes to visual media.
Yeah.
But that's a hard thing to do. Imagine you come home from a really long day at work. Do you want to listen to someone talk about best practices for nutrition? Or do you want to listen to something or watch something that's just going to make you just like I just need to like chill out. And for me, I don't think it's a good thing, but like I almost every day watch something that just lets me forget for a minute.
Oh
And maybe
yeah.
that's like not a good headspace, but I don't think it's a bad headspace. I think it's a normal headspace.
Well, dude, at the end of the day, like when we get to the evening, my brain is kind of fried. And as much as I would love to be that person that goes to bed with a book in their hand and reads till they go to sleep, like, no, I can't.
I know, which
I love watching a show that is just doesn't do anything for me. It's just pure entertainment.
yeah.
We've been watching Amazing Race. You ever
Yeah.
watch that?
No, but
There's like a
you've mentioned
trillion.
that to me.
Oh, I have. Yeah, there's like so many seasons, and it's really good.
So do you think like a good way to sum that up would be just like everything else in life, or most things in life, even like food, anything, you could still live by the 80-20 rule.
What do you mean?
Take me or you, for example, we just said
When you say 80-20 rule, are you saying like 20% of you?
it's kind of not what you're not like, you're not supposed to be doing this, and 80% you kind of stick to your guns and do what you're supposed to do. But like take your media, like take in for the day. I was just saying mine would be when I get home, I'm eating dinner and I just want to fuck off. So like I don't want to be bothered. I kind of just want to like deload. So I would watch something stupid on TV. That's my 20%. Now, I guess if you get into that 80% where you are watching stuff during the day when you need to be productive or like that's what I'm talking about. So maybe like that chunk is not necessarily a bad thing because it actually helps you like relax. So I shouldn't see myself as that's a bad influence on me that I'm doing that. Because I've tried to do what Andy's done. I've tried to like go home and eat dinner and listen to a podcast, and I just want to instead watch something stupid.
Yeah.
And I feel like maybe that's just an individual thing, you know?
Yeah, I think it depends. It depends on how whatever you watch or whatever like affects you, and being self-aware enough to know like, oh, this is just like a little bit of leisure time, which is totally cool.
Self-aware is the word.
Or maybe it's like something where you're like, I know this isn't good for me, or I know I shouldn't be watching this.
That's what I'm saying. I think self-aware is the word.
Yeah. So
because if you're self-aware outside of that time frame, I think that would be probably the key.
Yeah.
You're trying to go to bed, you're trying to get your day started, and you're watching that, or you're on TikTok instead.
Yeah.
That's the problem.
Yeah. Agreed.
Well, now I don't feel bad about myself. Thank you.
Good. You shouldn't.
Dr. Levi.
Okay, what about podcasts? I just want to know what podcasts or I guess like main podcasts, if you have any, that you listen to. Because me personally, I mean, I don't know you for sure. I guess we've never really talked about this, but like there's podcasts, same thing, right? They're entertainment. Like there's those, like my wife likes those crime podcasts and stuff like that.
It's not crime's not the word I'm thinking of. It's like conspiracy theories. People really like those.
Sure.
Yeah.
I'd say me personally, the only podcast I watch, it's usually like interviews or people that I like their perspective, and I like to hear it, and they have their own show or whatever. Is that the kind of podcast you listen to for the most part? You sent me that one. It's like
DOAC.
Yeah, and that was like a big kind of interview type one.
Yeah, I think so.
Podcasts have a huge impact on me, I feel like.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. I agree with that wholeheartedly. Me personally, I'm not the best at being a continual reader or reading a book all the way through, or just like every year, the one thing I probably don't really follow up with as like a what do you call it? A New Year's resolution is like, someone's like, read 15 pages every day, or I'm going to read 20 books this year.
Yeah. Or like 75 hard.
I read
10 pages a day.
Oh, I can talk about that too. Yeah.
Have you done 75 hard?
No, okay. I would love to touch on that. I just can't. I read about 2 books a year. And I don't feel bad about it because I listen to podcasts. To me, podcast is a great way to expand your like knowledge base without having to like sit down and read a book. And I don't usually do audiobooks either. So on the podcast front, I tend to like the more productive podcast. Andy, my roommate, really loves like comedy podcasts, like Chris D'Elia, um, what's his name, Schaub, like all those guys. What?
I have a funny story about you talking about Brendan Schaub.
Yeah,
So back in the day, so it's just like years ago, probably like it's probably like over 5 years ago. But me and my girlfriend at the time were really into comedy, and we'd go to shows all the time and stuff like that. And Brendan Schaub was one of the shows that we went to.
I like him. He gets a lot of hate, but I like him. I think he's funny.
Sure. And
Sure.
no, this is just funny. I don't care whatever, but you got brought up. Brendan Schaub, he was performing at Brea Improv, and me and my girlfriend at that time,
Is that in California?
yeah, we got tickets to the show and stuff, and he like we both followed him on Instagram, and so he's like posting about like his upcoming show, getting the advertisement out and stuff like that. And so I think my girlfriend was like, just like liking a lot of his stories, right? Because we're going to
I
that
see where
show,
this is going.
and then he slid into her DMs, and was like asking her all this stuff, like, oh, and like being all flirty and stuff like that. Where she like basically wants to hang out with her after all this stuff. And I don't remember like the specifics, but it was like super weird. And she like showed me all the DMs and stuff like that, and he was trying to like meet up with her and things like that. And then I actually because I was like a fan, and I think it was my idea to go to that comedy show. Because I watch I'm I watch a little bit of UFC, so that's where he came up, and so I was interested in
Yeah.
his comedy and stuff like that. And anyways, I I felt like kind of weird about it, and I actually sent him a DM, and like not like
Hey, man.
not a pissed off one. I think I was more just like, this is weird, and like I'm actually a fan, and I'm the reason we like bought tickets to your show. And he's not like a super successful comedian, at least at that time. I don't know where he's at now. And
I think he was more known for MMA.
yeah. So to me, it was more just like, I'm just gonna say this. He'll probably never even see it, never read it. So I sent him a DM. I was just like, "Hey, dude, just want to let you know, I'm a fan. I've been to your comedy before. I bought tickets for me and my girlfriend. Yada yada. I'm all over her page at that time, right? And I just said like, this is it's kind of lame that you're doing that.
That's my boy standing on business right there.
I said I was like, you just lost a fan.
You really showed
it's
him.
funny yeah, right. And so I just said this thing. I was like, dude, I'm a fan, whatever. Like, obviously not anymore. Just, it's weird. And that was it. And then he responded to me, and he was like saying all this stuff. He was like apologizing to me, but at the same time denying it completely. And it was like really weird. And I told him, I was like, dude, like, you can just apologize. Like, I, I, I've seen all the DMs. Like, she has it on her phone. And he started telling me that he has like 3 people that work for him on his social media. So he's like, when were these messages sent? And like yada yada.
Scumbag.
Dude, it was so weird because I was like not looking. I think he was really worried that I was gonna try to like put him on blast and like post stuff on, which I'm sure people do to people like that, and or that do things like that, which I wasn't going to do. I'm not that kind of guy. Even at that point in my life, I was like, I'm not gonna like, I don't care to put this guy on blast. I just wanted to let him know that like that sucks for me. And so he starts like going all weird, dude. And he's like DMing me like super late. It's like late at night and stuff, and like he's denying it, and then he's like, I'm so sorry, like, and then he started like, it was really weird because then he started being like telling me like, please, like, don't put this out there and things like that. Like, he was embarrassed.
Levi, you said he's like late at night, Can you just picture him like in bed on his side?
Yeah,
just
dude.
Texting you on Instagram.
I was like, what? Like, this guy's Joe Rogan's friend and stuff like that. Like, it's just like it was weird to me, and yeah, that was the end of it. I never wanted to take it any further than I did.
There you go, guys. That's your story.
Yeah,
Levi, dude, he'll stand on fucking business like no one else.
so
Try
it
me,
was really
dude.
weird,
Try him.
but
I dare you to try him.
I'm gonna call you out, dude. That's
He'll call you out, but he
he's
won't
trying-
put you on
he
blast.
was
but
trying
he'll
to
call
steal.
you
He
out,
was
dude.
trying to steal my girlfriend. And so, anyways,
Hell
not to
yeah,
get
dude.
too off topic, but
Hey, at least
that was a
I
funny story.
know. At least I know, brother. You're gonna stand on business.
Yeah, so
That's moral of the story.
yeah. So, but yeah. It's so
Hey, you
random.
guys told us to add some personality to this podcast, so there's your personality.
Yeah. And I guess I'm kind of like now I am putting them on blast because I'm on a podcast talking about it now.
Oh yeah, dude.
Yeah.
Watch, we'll get 5 people. Our 5 people will put you on blast, bro.
Oh man.
And then he'll go back to California and kick your ass.
Yeah.
All right. Anyway, that was amazing. Thank you.
And
for
Brennan
trying that.
Schaub, for those of you who don't know, he's like a former like heavyweight UFC fighter. Just to put that out there, like
Who
a
did he
professional
beat?
fighter.
He beat. He beat Mirko Krokop at once. If you know
I
who
think
that
so.
is.
I think so. And
And if you've seen Mirko
he
Krokop,
fought in a title fight. Like
yeah,
you know, he didn't win, but
I forget who he ended up going against. I don't know. Andy
big dude.
would know. Yeah, Andy would know. But the Mirko Krokop one, that one impressed me. If you know who that is, that's pretty scary. But oh yeah. So yeah. Anyway, I think when it comes to podcasts, I really like listening to. There's probably like 5 people I listen to on a regular basis.
Okay. What are a couple of them?
What's his name? Nick Bear, Chris Willix. I listened to the guy that I sent you a good
I
bit.
love, dude. I think I've always followed Nick Bear's podcast, but I never really listened to it much. And until recently. But his podcast is really good.
Yeah, I like him. The DOAC, I like him. It's the guy that I sent you.
Okay.
Outside of like the couple people I listen to on a regular basis, there are fields I find interesting, or an individual I find interesting that don't have a podcast, but I'll watch her or him on a different podcast that I wouldn't normally listen to. A good example is like, I don't listen to Joe Rogan a lot, and I don't know, we're not going to get into politics about that, but like, I like Dr. Rhonda Patrick a lot. So she's been on multiple podcasts. She talks a lot about nutrition, health. I mean, she's one of the individuals who could talk for 4 hours about the sauna, and then you ask her one question about childbirth, and she'll give you 4 hours about like a full nutrient profile about what you should be doing around childbirth. So like, she's an individual I like listening to, but she doesn't have to be on one of the 3 podcasts that I listen to. So
Gotcha.
My thing is like, I'll listen to these couple more, and then more like an area, or if someone sends me a suggestion, I'll listen to it. I will say on that note, there's like the Nick Bear was a good example. Someone had a real problem, or like his viewpoints of what he was saying. And I think in general, I try to listen to people that have a view, but they can stay pretty neutral, and they can also talk about something that is an opposing view. I think if you listen, like a good example of that, just a super simple one is is it Lex Friedman? Lex Freeman?
Yeah, I've heard of him. I don't know too much about him.
He's had everyone around the sun on. So he could talk to a Republican at like the exact same level that he could talk to a Democrat. He doesn't treat them any differently. He doesn't treat them poorly. He's kind of neutral in a sense, but he can talk to everyone. I like that perspective because that leaves you open to asking questions, understanding someone's viewpoint, and then being able to reply without replying with a ton of emotion. And
Okay.
I think
so like, sorry, like for like you're talking about like having somebody who has a host who has an open mind, and like also will have somebody on that they don't necessarily line up as far as thoughts. And
you're curious. You're able to listen to someone speak, whether you agree with them or not. Okay. And I think that's important. Like, someone had said to me that they didn't think Nick Bear was like that. But for the most part, the podcasts that I listen to, all of those people are very open to what their guest is talking about. They're very open. They're very understanding. They have good questions lined up, etc. And I like that in a podcast because, you know, that allows the guest to really drive the podcast. You're there to listen to the guest for the most part,
Yeah.
not always the host. And if you don't want to like listen to that person talk, you get to skip the episode. But um, yeah, I think that's where I fall with podcasts in general. What about you?
Okay. There's probably like 3 podcasts that I really listen to. Uh, let's see, 3 of 7 podcasts. That's Chad Wright's podcast. So he's got a team. So it's like 3 of them, and then they have
Do you want to explain
they'll have a
who
guest on.
chat like?
Yeah, Chad Wright is a very talented speaker. He's an ex Navy SEAL, ultra runner, and just uh, lives a life that follows Christ.
So he has religious ties as well.
Yeah, for sure. And so podcasts, his podcasts, they range from like running. There'll just be episodes that are just about running, and then there'll be episodes, just about whatever. Dude's just a really powerful speaker. So it's cool. It's a lot of it is about ties in with faith, and a lot of it ties in with running. And then they get into some other things too. They're some funny characters, but that's a big one that I love, and I get a lot out of personally. See, so like I said, Nick Bear, I've been listening to his podcast a lot lately, which get a lot of. So I'd say 3 of 7. I get a lot of like motivate or not motivation, but like a lot of thoughts and like kind of
Betterment.
yeah, I want to say like makes me rethink things and like kind of hypes me up, motivates me. Nick Bear's podcast can motivate me for sure, with like the things that he talks about and like his goals. He's more of a calm dude. Um, but so I like listening to him, and his can be pretty educational as far as like the hybrid athlete stuff and nutrition and things that he's discovered. And he owns a big supplement company, so he knows a lot about business, about training, setting your mind to things. So I love that. And then
One thing he's introduced more recently, or you hear about it more in his podcast, is life.
yeah,
Like he has
yeah,
a wife, he's a new father, so you hear him make a lot more comparisons about like that aspect of life. When before it was you would mainly see a lot more fitness based stuff,
okay,
but now he incorporates what I hear is a lot more like experiences of just life.
okay, yeah. I feel like that's like I said, I haven't been listening to his very long, so I feel like that's pretty right on the money with what I've heard.
Yeah.
And then the third one's Mind Pump. Have you heard of Mind Pump?
I've listened to a few. Someone has sent me one of those.
Yeah, so Mind Pump is like it's 3 personal trainers that live, I think they're in somewhere in Northern California. And they're funny, like just hearing them talk together. They talk about life, just like their own lives, fatherhood, things like that. And just like fitness, like the newest things about fitness. And then they have like people call in that are asking specific questions about whatever that has to do with fitness, and they give great answers and advice. So
Yeah, and just to clarify
super
again
educational.
to everybody, why that is appealing to both me and Levi is we both have athletic backgrounds. We both run now from a competitive standpoint, and we are also personal trainers. So I know we haven't clarified that in the past, but that's kind of our connection to fitness and running and all that other stuff. So that's why we enjoy talking about it.
Yeah.
So it seems like in general, once again, podcasts are set up from more of a beneficial standpoint. Like,
Oh yeah.
I think we're kind of on the same page with the type of information that we take in from a podcast. I've never been really influenced by crime or conspiracy theories or like the call her daddy type stuff. If you're familiar with that, it's like a barstool all
I've heard
about,
of it.
yeah.
Yeah.
that stuff has never really interested me. When it comes to podcasts, I would say podcasts are like my books.
Yeah. It's important to, I feel like, to be pretty particular about the podcasts you listen to, because those people's like opinions and their character is just like, it's in your head, when you're listening to
Can
them.
I elaborate on that
Yeah.
with something you might find really interesting? So there's a guest I actually want to have on. I think I've talked to you about her before. Her name's Christy. She's one of my clients. Christy is she works in the hospitals in Denver. She is a positive psychologist, and she works with a lot of troubled children on a regular basis, which to me is a very hard job to have. Like I don't deal well with that. But so I think the way that she takes in podcasts are much different than other people. So I might get a lot of flack from this. I like Jordan Peterson. Jordan Peterson has a lot of political views that are very controversial. One thing he does do is he stands up for men who are going through a lot of mental health problems, which you just don't see all the time. And so anytime I talk to her about these things, she sees them from a different light than I do. I see them from kind of a standpoint of how can I apply this to my life? Christy sees them as, how does this affect, the people that I'm dealing with as a positive psychology? Like she sees it from that like doctor standpoint of clients and, how do I see this in the hospital? How can it affect the people around me rather than more of an individual standpoint? And I think this ties along with how you let this influence you and also who you listen to. Recently she had, take David Goggins. You sent me a note the other day. I had seen it too. That for those of you who don't know David Goggins, we don't need to get into it, but look him up. He's a psychopath. He can be a bad influence, but he can also be a very good influence. It just depends on how you consume his media. He uses a lot of curse words. He's a very hard individual. For him, if you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing, you're a bitch. Bottom line. That's pretty much what it is. Right. And so Christy came to me the other day. She was like, "Do you know who David Goggins is?" And I was like, "Yeah, I got." And I misspoke immediately because we were not on the same page. I was like, "Yeah, that guy's a legend." Because I see him like I know who I am. Like I strive to just be like, if we're on a run, right? And we're X amount of miles in, we're halfway and I'm dying. I'm like, I got to get to this fucking run. You don't know me, son. Like that kind of mentality. You get that from David. It's just hard, hard as nails. And she had a client come in, and not a client, a troubled kid, and was like, David Goggins told me that if I'm not doing this, I'm a fucking bitch. And then like this kid like put his whole life down the drain and like had a terrible mindset because he just saw himself as like this little shit bag, pretty much. You know what I mean? Like he just
because he wasn't up to that kind of standard.
It's not that he wasn't up to that standard. He doesn't consume that the same way someone else does.
Oh, okay.
So like he might idolize David Goggins for it is, but he's not David Goggins. So in his mind, if he's not going on a 100-mile run, I'm a fucking loser.
Gotcha.
Right. So it does like, not only do you need to be aware of, your influencers, but you need to be aware of like, or understand how you're consuming like the things that are influencing you. For me, David Goggins fires me up. For other people, it makes him feel like a trash can. And sometimes I think he wants you to feel like a trash can, so you make a change. But that might not be good for someone who has mental health problems, like et cetera.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? So,
or like honestly, he takes it too far, right? It's a standard
to an extreme.
That is an extreme that you shouldn't. Nobody, I don't think, should be necessarily aiming for. But it's easy for me and you to pull some like motivation out of it, like some mental strength type of stuff from it. But you never want. I mean, it's dangerous, like the way he lives his life.
Yeah, and
I wouldn't do it even if I did have the mental strength. I wouldn't want to.
Exactly, and I think that's important to understand. And I think from her viewpoint, she wasn't seeing it as like he's not a bad guy. He's done a ton of great things, and he's helped a lot of people. But you also have to understand how you consume things.
Sure.
There's two sides of the coin.
Sure.
It's not his problem. It's also your problem. Like,
oh, yeah.
You may not like Joe Rogan. Joe Rogan can provide a lot of useful information and put a lot of good people in front of you.
Yeah.
Right? But what you might take away from it is I don't like that guy's views. So it all depends on like, it's the same as any situation in life. If you don't like what someone said to you, that situation is not going to change. What you can control is how you handle that situation. So I think, what we've talked about today is like influences, but it's also super important to consider and grow like in the area of like how you handle certain influences and how you handle consuming things.
Absolutely.
Like Nick Bear just posted he had a podcast, or he I think it was a while back, but he recently posted about it. It was like control what you consume.
Yeah,
Like
we're
that
all
should be the goal.
responsible, I think, for what we let in, right? So when it comes to like podcasts and things like that, uh, all these people with all these different lifestyles and opinions, like at the end of the day, it's like me and you are responsible for ourselves as far as what we're gonna let in, how much screen time we're gonna give, our phones when we know it has a negative effect on us and things like that, which I think can kind of transition to while we close this up last, 15 minutes or whatever. Um, so we're like I said, so we're kind of responsible. We agree with that, right? With like what we let in.
Yeah, I think
So what about when it comes to people?
when it comes to people, why don't you? I know we have a few topics we want to hit on this. Why don't you narrow that down a little bit more? Let's dive in a little bit deeper.
Um, I just think like friend groups, right? We could start there.
Okay.
Um, they probably have a bigger influence than the things we just talked about, social media, podcasts, media in general. Um, how particular are you as far as like your inner circle,
Mm-hmm.
and much of like how has the people that you allow around you um shaped your life today?
Yeah. Um. So I can expand on that a little bit. I think that has changed over time. I
Sure.
think more along the high school lines or like time frame. I wanted to be in the know all the time. Like
Mhm.
I kind of wanted to be invited to things, go to things all the time, which definitely changed the people that I chose to be around.
Yeah,
And if I'm looking back on it now, um, I'm not a huge fan of that. Like those people.
sure.
And I know people like those people have changed over time, just like I've changed over time, which some of those things are hard to accept. But um, I definitely don't like the friend group, and there's people, but overall, I don't like the friend group, and I don't even feel like it was a group. It was just whoever, whoever, whenever. Um, and then kind of after high school, I made friends in college. Unfortunately, not a lot of them live here because they're foreign, but um, so I was in Memphis with. For those of you who don't know, I went to school in Memphis, grew up in Memphis, and have moved out to Colorado about 2 years ago. So basically, you have high school, right? And you've got the people you met in high school. And I would say I probably am actually friends with like 3% of those people now. And then you go to college. And then for me, I played soccer. So a lot of my friends uh, didn't actually live in Memphis and were foreign. So as soon as college was over, I was kind of in the middle. I had like two friends that I was close with from high school, didn't really want to vibe with anyone else. And then I had like one or two friends from college who, stayed in Memphis. Now, the only reason I told you that is because I'm kind of setting up for Denver. Denver was the game changer for me. So in Memphis, I felt a little bit lost. I felt kind of stuck. And uh, just my group felt stationary because I know we want to dive in a little bit about like, you want your friend group to move you forward or
Mhm.
like, challenge you and help you grow.
Hopefully.
I didn't have that at all. Like not at all. And like it's never good to be the smartest person in the room. I'm not saying I was the smartest person in the room, but it didn't feel like any of us were smart. Right? Like my friend group was just stagnant. And that's kind of the way that I felt. And so I was nervous when I moved to Denver about, making friends, but I really wanted to make it a big deal to make the right friends.
Nice.
So when I moved to Denver, I met a cluster of people, yourself included. And then it took me about a year to just have a good, solid foundation of friends. And one thing I say to anyone who asks me about my friends or like someone new I meet, the friends that I have now in Denver, I know that if I bring them around other people like my family or someone I need a good impression, that they're not going to do something stupid. I trust them. I like their values. I like them as people. So I trust them wholeheartedly. And they the same for me. So they can bring someone around me and they trust that I'm not going to make them look like a jackass, etc. Right? So I think my biggest things was I trust my friends wholeheartedly. Our values match. And if we're not the same people, we're different, but we all push each other to grow. So say the Leadville thing, which we've talked about, right? I have friends from the past, that for no reason have reached out to me, and it'll be like, why are you doing this? Or you can't do this, right? Dude, every single person here, with the exception of maybe like one or two, has like really pushed me, or they've even said like, how can I help? Who haven't, have no need to ask me that. So I really like the group that I have now, and it's on the smaller end. I'd say like
Mhm.
10 solid people, right? Joey
That's
Diaz.
good.
I don't know if you know who Joey Diaz is, but Joey Diaz, I love a famous quote from him. He's like, "You don't need a ton of people." He goes, "You give me 3 bad motherfuckers, and I'll take over the world." And to me, that's kind of true, because if you got 3 people, you can all push each other. You're all growth mindset. You all have a great time. You all vibe. I just think that is important. I think if you extend yourself too much, there's drama, there's a lot of crossover. This person doesn't like this person. But if you all kind of have the same core values, and you all, you're just genuine, down to earth, good people, you're all gonna to vibe to some standpoint and get along and be able to like grow off of each other. And to me, that was really important. And just as a side note, most of my friends, none of them are the same.
Mhm.
So it's not like, I think maybe in high school or something, it was just a bunch of gym guys, like just 10 gym guys, right? Everyone here is different. Like, no one's like you. No one's like my friend Michaela. No one's like Kylie. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
everyone kind of has their own individual thing. Everyone, is interested in what everyone else is, or like what each other's are doing. You all want to support each other's goals and aspirations. And I think that support system is something you don't always have if your group's huge and you don't care about each other that much.
Mm. Which is like Denver. There's a lot, like Denver specifically. I feel like there's a lot of big friend groups out there, right?
And that can be a good thing maybe for like a ski trip or something.
Right.
But like, I never had, like, I feel like you do, maybe with your brothers and then Manir. I never had a core group growing up.
Mm.
Like, I've got 2 probably really good friends, but I missed out on having that small core group. So when I found it here, like, I don't want to let it go. I
Yeah.
like what I have, but I think, one thing it's made me realize is, this is selfish, but I got asked to go to someone's birthday party like 6 months ago, and we went out to a bar, and it was a completely
6 months in advance. RSVP.
no, I already went
Oh,
like
got
6
you,
months
got you,
ago.
got you. Okay.
Yeah, and it was a completely 100% different group of people who I knew, but not like my core friend group. And the whole time, as not that I was upset, I was just like, I wish I was with my friends. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
that felt like a little selfish, but it just made me realize how much I like my friends, and how much like I would rather spend time with my friends than like just a different group of people who are my friends, but not like my core group of friends. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah. What about you? So I know that was really long, but I
No.
felt like it was a needed explanation to be like grateful for where I am today, and then like the size of my group. Sorry if you guys hear this. Amanda just walked in, and oh, that's never mind. Levi's
Dude.
wife just walked in, and my dog thinks she's a German Shepherd.
Daisy. Get her, Daisy.
Should rip your ankles off.
No, I think that's good stuff, dude. Like, I don't disagree with what you're saying. I think that's cool that when you came here to Denver, you're more like, you should be picky with your friends. That's what I think.
I just didn't want to go through that same loop again.
I think it's okay. I mean, like, I think you should be picky with your close friends, I think is how I should clarify.
100%.
Yeah.
I think there's
I think
certain like you have to align values, and I think the more you're around people that you don't want to be around, or like certain things happen, the more you realize what you actually look for in a person, like certain values that you actually want a person to have. So like
right.
you, for instance, I need someone who's going to push me, who's got drive, who wants, to do hard things, a step up from something else. And there's not a lot of people out there.
Right. Yeah.
So when
I
you
know.
are around someone like
Yeah.
someone like that, you're like, I need to be around this person more often.
Yeah.
Because they're gonna help me move forward. I can grow from this person.
Yeah.
And so I feel like not only I'm drawn to those people, but when I get that, I don't want to let it go either.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's cool how our friendship has developed because we were not really like friends. We kind of like had mutual friends.
Yeah.
I think hung out a couple times,
I'd
and it
see you
was
every
kind of
once in a
like
while.
every once in a while. Um, but it's cool how like as we're both, I feel like we're both leaning in a lot more to things that we're passionate about, and
I think leaning into things that are uncomfortable.
yeah, it's kind of drawing us closer together
Yeah.
through that, which I think is cool. But yeah, I mean, people you hang out with. I think it's great to have a big, group of friends. I have a lot of friends, not a ton, but I'd say I have a lot of friends. Doesn't mean I'm necessarily like super close with them, hanging out with them a lot. When it comes to like really close friends, I just probably have a handful like you, and those are the friends that kind of they challenge me. Um, they shape, a lot of the things that I do. Uh, I think, your close friends, they're going to have an impact on your health, mental and physical, um, your perspective. And
Would you say that those people, like, I know you have those people in your mind right now, and this is one thing I've noticed, they always, and I mean always, if it's the right people that you're thinking about, they always want the best for you.
yeah,
There hasn't
yeah,
been a moment that's gone by that these particular people haven't tried to help me, haven't,
dude, yeah, I agree with that.
like something could be go terribly wrong, or you could do something that is just against it, and they're like, they'll support you. And I'm not saying like I'll help you kill somebody. I'm saying like
They'll
something
be
that's
there for
out
you.
of the norm. Yeah, they'll
Yeah.
be there for you, or if it's a huge push, they're like you can like they're supporting you.
Oh
Period.
yeah.
End of story.
Oh yeah.
And that's not. I wouldn't say that's normal. I wish we could pan the camera,
I know, right?
but
um,
but
but
yeah,
yeah, and her too. I mean, that like T just walked in, but like that's my wife,
T is
and
Levi's wife.
yeah,
TEA, pronounced T. So T is her name.
and she's probably got the biggest impact on my life, obviously, as far as everything, because I can talk through everything that's going on through my head to her,
Mm-hmm.
and she kind of has to listen because we live together and stuff, and I think that also has helped me in the past, years. So lean into the things that I'm leaning in to, which are positive things, I'd say.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I mean, I think,
But that took like a cognitive decision for you. And I don't want to speak for you and T, but there were obviously things that maybe an individual didn't have in the past that made you realize that T had. Like she supports you, like certain pieces. Like it's the same. And I know she's your wife, but like I'm saying, as a friend, right? There's certain pieces that you have and that if I meet someone else, I'm gonna want that piece like in a person.
mm,
Like whether it's you want drive or you want confidence, you want support, whatever that is. If that person's lacking it, it kind of might make you take a step back and be, you know what I mean,
yeah,
and not want to be super close with this person because they
yeah,
don't have the attributes that someone in your inner circle that you appreciate does.
yeah,
So I think I would say that personally, a small group feels like it would be a better, a little close knit. Like you get more done. More to get more done is not the right word, but you guys as a group, it just seems like things would go better. And I'm not saying a big group would be bad, but
right. Because you don't want to close off
yeah.
your small inner circle.
Mm-hmm.
You don't want to close it off because we still got a lot of, God willing, we still got a lot of life to live on this
I mean,
planet.
you weren't in my circle.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. So we don't know. I'm sure we're gonna meet so many other like close friends that add to us, and also that we want to add to them, and just enjoy that bond and that friendship.
I would say weirdly enough, like my friends, quote quote, from the past, like say high school,
Yeah.
going from that to post college, because I didn't really have a small knit group
Mm-hmm.
and I knew what I was looking for, it made me hate a lot of people. Like I didn't even want to be around them. So if I saw you and I didn't really like you, I'd be like, oh, fuck that guy. I don't even want to look at him.
What's up? That's like an ego thing, or?
Yeah, I would say so.
Yeah.
It's an ego thing, but also like uh it's like if we weren't best friends, I didn't want to talk to you at all. Like I didn't even want to deal with you. But I think it's just more of it's an attitude thing too. So the friends that I have now, I think they've also genuinely helped me just be open to having conversations with more people, just being able to talk to people in general and not just be, like you're saying, completely closed off. I'm not necessarily allowing them into my like inner circle or small group. I'm not opposed to it, but I think they've just made me. I think that's a good way to put it. They've just made me better,
Yeah.
a better person.
Yeah.
Whether I like you or not, I can converse with you. We can have a conversation, and I'm not just going to be some closed off asshole.
Yeah.
And I think in the past I probably was, and that was definitely like a series of events that just made me this way. So for me, Denver it just allowed me to kind of start fresh and figure out who I wanted to be. I think my friends also helped mold me into who I'm looking to be, who I am today, etc. So they've been a great positive influence on me, and I think that's what I wanted to set myself up for.
Yeah. Yeah. And like the best kind of people are the people that make others around them better. That's like a special kind of thing. I'd say that's where I want to head. I want to make people better and encourage others around me more. And I'd say, dude, when I moved here, I realized how terrible my social skills were.
100%. That's the dude.
Because
so bad.
You didn't grow up with everybody around you. It's all these
So
like strangers.
bad,
You're like, I got to make a friend somehow. I'm like, how do I do that? Yeah, you go to a bar, and that's what I started doing.
Yeah.
And then I got involved with, not bad people, but I got involved with the wrong crowd. Pretty early on when I moved here, and my life was just like a lot different for a short amount of time, and then I'd say I kind of got things together more. Daisy. But yeah. Is there anything else you want to hit on?
Yeah, I had like one small piece, and I think I forget who this was. It wasn't Chad Wright. It was a different Navy SEAL guy. And not that we need to get into my past, but I've always looked up to these people. But this guy made a really, really good point. And it's not necessarily tied to friends, but a little bit more life, right?
Okay.
And this ties into influences and the people you surround yourself with. Is I think take your Navy SEAL, right? And he's talking about this from a Navy SEAL standpoint. Is everyone wants to know about Navy SEALs and like what's that like? These people are crazy. The crazy mindset. They hold on to that for their whole life, right? You become a speaker. You're a former Navy SEAL. I'm a speaker. Here's what we went through. Here's what we do. And the guy that was talking was a Navy SEAL, and he was actually talking poorly about most Navy SEALs after service because that's all they are for the rest of their life. And so I kind of take that from a friendship standpoint is the people that I want to surround myself with. It's not, dude, you remember when? Or this, you remember when we used to do this? Or like, it's always about the past, or it's always about like this one thing. What are you doing right now? That's what I want to know about. What are you trying to do? What's interesting in your life? What's going on in the future? So I think as long as you surround yourself with people like that, you're constantly hearing about like amazing new things, right?
Mm.
So imagine the stories that you're going to get out of MS from the US, or
Yeah.
even like the journey building up to that, like all stuff like that. I think those types of people are like amazing friendships because it's constantly new things in your life instead of just the constant you remember when, or it's just everything's about the past. I think it's more interesting when you get to talk to people about like things you're working on, things that are happening in the future, like just building. And I think that's interesting and not talked about enough, or people don't realize it enough.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think that's a big thing about people get stuck in their life, and so everything's always about the past. And so if you can connect more with people who are striving or moving forward or just interested in something new, you get a lot of value out of that because it makes you give everyone else like what's that fucking Coach Carter quote where it's like you start doing a podcast, right? You're now letting other people know that it's okay to start a podcast. Or like that. I don't feel comfortable talking. You don't feel comfortable talking, but we're doing a podcast. You're now allowing other people to just be like, oh, okay, I could probably do that too.
Yeah.
But it's constantly about just new stuff.
I love that, dude. Yeah. I love that. What are you doing right now?
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's not about
totally.
what you did. It's about what are you doing now. He's like, that's what I care about the most. And
Yeah,
that was from a Navy SEAL, which is really interesting because he's like, I'm not a Navy SEAL. I was. He's like, I'm a business owner now.
yeah,
So let me tell you about what I'm doing now. And I like that because those are great conversations and it draws you in. It makes you want to know, what that person's up to, how they're growing, how can you help them? Like, you know what I mean?
yeah, yeah, totally. Like same thing with like college athletes and professional athletes and things like that. Like afterward, I love it. I'm excited, dude. Just for like, I'm excited that we're doing something new, um, right now with the podcast and the things coming up this year and things that we don't even see coming yet, but the things that are just going to be led to after, with all the momentum.
Yeah.
Um,
Some new great stories, some opening doors. So
yeah, yeah,
it should be fun.
yeah. It's gonna be a good year, and we're off to a good start.
Let's try and stay consistent.
Let's do it.
Got some people to prove wrong.
Yeah, yeah. All
All
right.
right, guys. Well, this closes out episode number 3. Uh, we've got a personal goal to have one guest a month moving forward throughout the year, at least one guest a month. I would hope that we get up to 2 or 3 a month so that it's less of just me and Levi talking about topics and more getting to hear about other people's experiences. So episode 4 will be with our buddy David Lee in California. So he'll be our first guest, and we will see you at episode 4.
Later.
See you later, guys.